morning, Diane in Texas. I hope you're doing well. And Diane has sent through a question asking, how did it feel yesterday morning when Steph and myself encountered that young elephant bull on foot? It was so exciting, and it was the one thing that I really hoped we could share with you while we were doing the walking safaris. An elephant bull on foot, I think, is going to be the most impressive subject for us to share with you whilst out on foot. And yesterday's sighting was a textbook sighting. Stefan did an incredibly good job of ensuring that we got close enough to the elephant to enjoy the sighting, but you would have realized that it took a long time before that elephant even realized that we were there, and that is the main focus or main goal when you are spending time on foot and trying to approach animals. Your goal is to not interfere and impact on their day. Obviously, there is always a chance that they will detect you. All of the animals out here, their senses are far greater than ours. But if you go in with the mindset that you don't want to interfere and you want to sneak in and sneak out without them knowing you were even there, yesterday was a good example of that almost coming together. The wind swirled at the last moment and the elephant smelt us and then came up to investigate, just like we would if we heard a strange noise in the bottom of our garden, for example. We'd go and just have a look to see what's going on. And thankfully, the elephant yesterday, as soon as he established what we were, he moved off, and it was a very calm sighting with no real danger, although when we did start backing away from him, naturally your heart does start beating a little bit faster, because you never know what they will do and how angry or aggressive they could become. But the majority of the times, animals will steer away from conflict with us. But thanks for that question, Diane, and I hope we get to share many more encounters on foot with you in the coming months. It is something that we are hoping to incorporate into the Wild Earth Safari Live experience. Oh, look at this. Straight ahead on the termite mound there, Vian. Now, this is a really beautiful antelope that we don't get to show you very often. And it looks like this steenbuck is rubbing its orbital glands. No, it's just feeding. It's a young male. You would have noticed those little horns poking out. I thought it may have been rubbing scent glands on the bushes, but it was just feeding on them. Fully grown. That one was not the biggest male. Its horns will probably double in length, so about 4 inches. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. The smaller antelope in this area, the duiker and the steenbuck, are both quite nervous of us, and therefore we don't get to show you them very often, unless it's a glimpse of them darting off into the thick undergrowth. That one seemed quite relaxed, and oh, look at this. Wow, that's a 2-in-1 combo, folks. 2 males. Really interesting that they're so close to one another. I'm wondering if it's not a young son at the back that we're looking at now. And the bigger one would have potentially been its father. I'm not certain, but that's possibly what's going on. Oh, and it looks like we may get a few more beautiful moments with these steenbuck. The sun's poking out now, and after the rain everything is crisp and clean. They seem very focused on feeding, and the herbivores must all be very, very happy after all of the rainfall. They'll know what it means and what it brings, and it is going to bring a surge of green and growth to all the vegetation. Possibly the last rain we'll receive, or last decent rain we'll receive, could have been last night's downpour. And it's going to make a big difference to these animals. In the coming winter. Thankfully, it's not the first of the late rains. There's been a few abnormally late rains this season, and it's a huge, huge blessing, especially for the herbivores, because if the rainy season had have finished when it technically does, we've probably only got half the annual rainfall that we typically get here, which means it would have been a really tough, dry winter for the vegetarians. Would have been good for the predators, and drought is natural. In this area, every 5 to 7 years, we can expect a drought. And what that means is that it will bring down the herbivore numbers and allow the predator numbers to increase, because they get to feed on the weak and dying herbivores that battle through a dry season. So the plan is now to head back towards Twin Dams. We've been gone from there for about 15 to 20 minutes. And with a little bit of luck, there'll be a female leopard walking down to the dam to drink as we arrive. That's what I'm imagining. And if her tracks are anything to go by, which they certainly are, it could well happen. Unless, of course, she's made a kill within the block that she headed into, or she was just relaxing and sleeping. That leopard was also heading in the direction of Twin Dams. And just to let you know, Brent is still searching around the area of Buffels Hook Dam. There's been a lot of leopard movements in that part of the property over the last couple of days and weeks. I'm not sure if we are going to be able to get closer, so we can just try and bank this shot. Beautiful. Now it's your turn to tell me whether the male is on the left or the male is on the right. So it's two Bateleur eagles that we can see. You may be able to notice their red beak and red feet. Beautiful, beautiful birds. And if the sun could just poke out a little bit more above these clouds, we will have an incredibly good view. We can take photographs on our safaris, and it can be useful for a situation like this where you could look back at a screenshot and help identify birds or trees. And there are a little toilet break there from the one on the left. There are some of our viewers who get incredibly beautiful screenshots, often doing a better job than myself with my big camera. That's currently in for repairs and will hopefully be back soon. But at the moment I am cameraless. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer to explain to all of you. Now, they're both interested in knowing whether I prefer the walking safari or whether I prefer the driving safari. Now, they're two completely different experiences. Wow, look at this on the road. This is beautiful, and it's an absolute monster of a leopard tortoise. And I should have said this a little bit earlier, but again, I'm rusty after having been out of the presenting seat for a few weeks now. But we can expect to see a lot of reptiles moving after the rain. And this is our first victim. The ginormous leopard tortoise. In this area of South Africa, they typically don't get very large, whereas in other parts of South Africa, they can get much bigger. We're really lucky to have them walking towards us with this beautiful morning sunlight. And this shell is glistening and clean after all of the rain. Wonderful. This rain would have made a huge, huge difference to that tortoise's life, because you could imagine being an animal that cannot rely on easy movements from A to B, and that will have a huge impact on them drinking for obvious reasons. They cannot easily get to water holes and water sources like most of the other animals can do. So when it's dry, they often have to become dormant and just rest and relax and conserve energy. But now that it has rained, it would have allowed this animal to move off, continue feeding, and also get some moisture from the food that it's feeding on, even drinking from small puddles in the road. Great. So, back to the question about which I prefer, the walks or the drives. I think it's important to realize that, like I said, they're very, very different experiences. Your chance of seeing or having a good sighting and sharing moments with animals is very difficult on foot, because they're a lot less tolerant of us when we're on foot. Whereas in the vehicle, as you know, we've spent hours with leopards and they carry on with their day completely unaffected by us being there. So, from a photographic point of view and a sighting point of view, being in the vehicle is the best. But for me, from an excitement point of view and kind of plugging into nature, being on foot is unbeatable. So they cover different genres, and being on foot often allows you to find animals by tracking them down. But then you need to come and establish the sighting of the vehicle. So for me, it's important to combine and blend the two experiences together. And even when I have guests here out on safari, I like to combine walking with driving. Now, obviously, depending on the preferences of the guests, you may do a little bit more walking in some cases, but normally it's good to mix the two together, because you can achieve such different things on the two different mediums. I ideally would like to walk in the morning and drive in the afternoon, so that would be my ideal. But you do have to be flexible out here. Sometimes you need to just jump in a vehicle in order to be able to see something exciting happening. So you don't want to limit yourself to either of the two options. Oh, the elephants have done some of their business over here and knocked down a knobthorn tree. We'll just scoot around. Right-hand side and the male on the left, and I'll show you why. Now, for those of you who don't have access to bird books, let me find the Bateleur eagle and show you. So, on the center of this page you can see the characteristic red beak and red talons of the Bateleur. And you'll notice that the male has got black feathers on the trailing edge of its wing, whereas the female has this white bar. So there's the clear difference there, male and female. And then if you look at them in flights, you'll also notice that the male has got half black, half white, whereas the female is almost entirely white except for that thin black trailing edge. And the way that I like to remember this is that you could imagine a lady in a big white wedding dress and the male in a suit. So the female predominantly white and the male 50-50 when they're up in the air. beautiful, beautiful birds, and they do help us in finding carcasses. They can hunt, but will often scavenge and eat carrion from kills that are made by other animals. And it was yesterday morning when we were out searching for animals with Brent and Stefan that we saw a battler eagle perched in a tree. And it was perched in a tree with leaves. Not a comfortable tree, you could say, for birds of prey. Birds of prey often prefer to land in trees with no leaves because it's easier, and no small branches and thorns, because it's obviously easier to land and take off. However, yesterday morning we found the battler sitting in a tree with leaves, and that kind of gave us an inkling that there could be a kill nearby, so we got off and walked around, approached that area very cautiously. And Brent actually spotted the kill first, but it was a kill of natural causes. So it was more of a death than a kill, I guess. And it was an old female bushbuck that had died, and it had only been fed on by the two battler eagles that were in the area. We could tell that she died of natural causes because only the eyeballs had been eaten and a very small amount of its stomach content. They had managed to break into its stomach, but with their beaks, it's very difficult for them to tear the flesh of animals, and requires something else to often open up a kill. And we had a closer look at the bushbuck after having established that no other larger predators had fed on it, or that there were no larger predators in the area, and saw that the female bushbuck had absolutely no teeth left in her mouth. She had outlived her dental plan, and that's what caused her to die in the end. She would have lost condition because she wouldn't have been able to ruminate and chew the cud efficiently. But what are the chances of surviving a full life out here without any of the predators catching you? I think that female bushbuck did very, very well to make it right to the end. And the few animals that do manage to avoid being eaten, they do become will typically die at this time of the year as we go into winter. The cold weather and the precious
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've been having some fun with Scotty. So those female leopard tracks, we're still on them. They've gone into quite a thick drain line. We're just double checking the area around, making sure she hasn't crossed out. And I've got my fingers crossed that she's actually going to pop up around Buffalo Dam. So we're just going to do a quick loop around all the surrounding areas. And then we're going to
northern side of the Rebecca's Road.
Head back towards Buffalo Dam. So fingers crossed. I'm feeling lucky this morning. Hopefully you are too. And if there are any new viewers out there, you are seeing exactly what I'm seeing live wherever you are in the world. And it's one of the most incredible privileges for us to be able to share our passion and love for the African bush with all of you, wherever you might be. So I'm just going to check this road very carefully. It's quite a good one for leopard tracks, but nothing coming through at the moment, which is a good sign for us. Means she's definitely still that side. And also, we are interactive, so we are able to answer your questions about safaris and the animals and the birds and the trees and everything around us. And you can send us questions via email, and the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, or you can just use the hashtag Safari Live if you're on Twitter. As you can see, I've taken off my big jackets, the sun's out, and I've got my shoe caps. There's still a bit of fresh, it's still quite fresh, but not quite warm enough yet to not have a bit of comfort warmth with you. I'd probably guess it's probably around 20 degrees at the moment. But I think it's going to be nice and warm later in the day. I think the temperature might even get up to sort of 27, 28 degrees. I think is around or between mid-80s, 90s Fahrenheit. I'm trying to relocate my radio, which I have, not that one, misplaced. There we go. So our radios are really important tools that we can communicate with each other with in terms of sightings and whatnot, and it makes it much easier finding animals because we can work different areas. Oh, don't run. It's a really, 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 really beautiful bird called a Shelley's Franklin.
I can't see it.
Okay, there she is there. She's scuttling through the grass. It looks like a female Shelley's. And they are actually, out of all the Franklins, them and the Coqui Franklin are the two. Oh, there we go. We see the least of. And they're quite skulking and retiring. And they don't flush easily, so they don't jump out and scream like crested Franklins, which we see a lot of. And you see the good, beautiful white throat. Unfortunately, I don't have my books with me this morning because it was raining when we set out. But beautiful, beautiful bird. But definitely my favorite Franklin. And they've got such a unique call. The call goes... And when I got taught that as a kid, my grandfather used to say, it says, to drink a beer, to drink a beer, to drink a beer. But that's definitely my favorite of the Franklin species. I do like them all, but the Shelley's is definitely my favorite we get in this area. So apparently there's quite a bit of debate on how to pronounce Shadow's cub's name. It is Sindile. Sindile is how you would pronounce it. So, for those of you, Sindile, if you've been on Drive with me a few times, you know I like to ask you as many questions as you ask me. So, who can tell me what Sindile means? So Shadow's cub has been named Sindile. Who can tell me what it means? You can send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Hey guys, well, while Brian and I keep tracking, we're going to cross over to Scott for a bit, see what he's up to. So enjoy, and hopefully Scotty's got something interesting there.
Welcome back, and as you can see, we found some monkeys. This is a vervet monkey. It's the only monkey we get in this area of South Africa, and thankfully this individual is very relaxed and got a comfortable pose and perch there as he suns himself, or she suns himself. I'm actually not sure if it's a male or a female. And there was a fish eagle calling in the background that you may have been able to hear. That was my whistle. That will give you an indication of the noise to look for. It may call again. This vervet monkey is taking a time off to enjoy the sunshine and warm up. after what would have been a cold and miserable evening. And it looks like VM's found another one to show you. I'm not sure. There we go. There's some more members of this troop perched high up in a knobthorn tree. But they're all very relaxed and I think equally damp and miserable this morning. Thankfully the sun is out and they should heat up and be back to their playful monkey business in not too much time. It's great that we know where these monkeys are now, because there has been leopard movement in this area and we've been following tracks hoping to find a female leopard whose tracks were very fresh after the rain. And if these monkeys saw her, they would let out their alarm calls and help us to confirm that there was a leopard in this specific area. But for now, as you can tell, they are very, very relaxed. You can also see the beautiful blue skies, and it's going to be a magical day. Now, apologies for the signal breakup as we were arriving at Twin Dams, where I mentioned that I was hoping to find the female leopard that we are looking for, walking down towards the dam to drink, and there was no sign of her coming through there. Well, here starts the monkey business. And they do spend a lot of time grooming one another and building bonds and relationships within the troop. And that's exactly what we can see happening here. It looks like two youngsters that are playing with one another. Well, we can tell that it's a young male, I'm guessing, at the back now from the little stunt he tried to pull off there. And now, though, he's looking for little parasites and fleas and ticks. But you can always tell from the expression on its face that it's a little bit miserable and not quite ready for play yet. I can see their tails are literally almost dripping with water. It's something that us as humans don't often think about and realize is the effects of being out in the rain for a whole night. Imagine that. We have the benefits of being able to move into dry and warm places when the weather becomes bad, but they just have to sit out and deal with it. And that's why you can tell they're a little bit bedraggled this morning. Well, good morning, Georgianne in Illinois, and welcome on board this sunrise safari. Georgianne is interested to know whether vervet monkey troops will have territories, and they certainly will, and they'll compete with other troops for prime territories. In urban areas of South Africa, this can often be documented very well because you can have high populations of these animals living in amongst us humans, and where they occur obviously in close proximity to us allows us to monitor them more closely. And I have noticed, oh, look at this. It's pulling a tongue at us. That is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Oops. Obviously didn't like whatever it was chewing on. It was in the process of spitting it out.
Had a rough night last night.
Sorry?
Had a rough night.
Yeah, a rough night last night. Now he's paying the price. It's something that I haven't seen them doing before. But he's chewing on something and it's almost inducing a small vomit. So, yeah, who knows what's going on or what's causing that. But animals will occasionally feed on things to either induce diarrhea, to flush out their system, or vomiting. So that's all I can really read into from this behavior. But it's all these little things that you learn about animals by spending time with them. It almost looks like some kind of a dance move he's pulling off with that head. And you can just see a little pink tongue curled up, poking out as it goes along. Now, watch closely, because the individual closest to us on the end of that wobbly branch could tumble down from the sky at any stage. That branch is weak, and knobthorn trees are not the strongest of woods or hardest of woods. So at any point that little branch could give way. They obviously have a very good gauge as to branches and the strength of branches relative to their weight. So you don't often see it, but with the younger monkeys like this one, with less experience and wisdom, you sometimes see them taking tumbles. But not today.
Yeah, there's also a small clump of Dragon Boys also in the Beggars Road.
Okay, another good question has just come through, and this one was from Lisa, and it links in with Georgianne's question regarding territories, because Lisa's interested to know whether they sleep in the same trees every night, and it goes through stages. There's no set rule, but they will have certain trees that they will sleep in more often than not within their territory. But there could be between 5 and 10 trees as a rough idea as to how many potential sleeping sites they could have within a territory. And a lot just depends on the amounts of food and their general movements as to whether they will sleep in the same tree for a few nights. I know with baboons it's similar. You may find that they do have their favorite trees to sleep in, but you never know where they will decide to sleep. Well, thanks for the questions, and thanks to the monkeys for their very relaxed behavior, and really interesting to see that one vomiting. But I think it is time to continue and see what else we can find. Like I did say earlier, though, it's going to be a very, very useful point for us to know that the monkeys are right here, because even if we move off a couple of miles from here, if a leopard does pop into the area, they'll start shouting, and that will then indicate to us that we need to rush back here and see what they are shouting at. I have just got some feedback through from Stefan and Peter, who have headed out together this morning to try and help find some animals for us. And they've got tracks of, in all likelihood, Karula, a female leopard. close to the Gowrie Dam, and then from there she headed up to the quarantine clearings. That was the last I've heard. I'm not sure whether that the female tracks we were following earlier from Treehouse Dam were the same leopard tracks, or whether it's a different female, but good to know that there is a female leopard that's moved up in that area. And I think we are going to possibly continue into that area. Let's see if we can lend the guys a hand. Just got a question through from Kevin in Boston. Morning, Kevin, and welcome. Kevin's question is regarding the Bateleur eagles that we saw earlier. And you see at about 10 o'clock there's a kingfisher that's just landed. There you can see it kind of bobbling. Okay, just zoom in to 10 o'clock. Down, left, 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 down.
They got it.
There we go. That occurs here, but we don't very often get to show you. They're not very numerous. And interestingly, like most of the kingfishers in this area, it's actually not a fishing expert and doesn't require on-water or aquatic species to survive. It hunts insects and lives in broadleaf woodland, like where we find ourselves now, and the only time you'll see them at water is when they are drinking and bathing. But back to Kevin's question, he's interested to know whether there are other large birds of prey that will not only scavenge like the Bateleur eagles do, and there certainly are. The majority of the birds of prey we get out here are hunters, and there's a broad array of different size and shaped raptors that have specialized in hunting and feeding on different animals. So the largest bird of prey in this area will be the martial eagle. And a martial eagle is capable of taking down prey the size of steenbuck, the size of vervet monkeys, large prey. It's a massive raptor with 2.5 meter wingspan and ability to capture large prey. So it goes from that all the way to tiny little kestrels or goshawks that will feed on insects mainly. So the majority though of the birds of prey will actually hunt. And there's a few of them that will only rely on scavenging, mainly vultures. Those are the best known carnivorous birds of prey that rely on scavenging. But the Bateleur eagle also does combine scavenging with hunting, depending on the opportunities available to them. It's something that would be really wonderful to try and show you, birds of prey hunting. But understandably, following a flying bird while it's doing its thing is going to be very difficult for us from the vehicle. But who knows, maybe with the way technology is going these days, it won't be long before we'll be able to get great insight into the hunting techniques and methods of a lot of the aerial predators. notice that I said Peter and Stefan were out on drive this morning, and they are both going to be heading off this afternoon, along with Hayden and a lot of the other crew members that have come up for a recent TV broadcast that we did on Saturday and Sunday, which is obviously sad for all of us. It's been so much fun having the whole team around, and I guess Pete's making the most of his last morning here and enjoying some time out with Stefan. We really are fortunate with the crew we have in the Wild Earth team at the moment. But sadly, some of them will be leaving today. Basically, the team is going to drop from about 20 people that we had in camp to about 7 or 8 tomorrow. So we more than halving our team. But that's fine, because we will meet up again in the future, and look forward to that already. Speaking of the other team members, maybe it's worth going and checking up with Brent. You can't leave him for too long unattended, because he can become quite mischievous. So I think you should all go and keep an eye on him and make sure that he's still hot on the trail of some animals, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Morning, guys, and welcome back. We're still trying to figure out what happened to this female leopard, but we're pretty confident she's in this area. And I've actually just spotted as I stopped on it. And of course, like most Steenbok and Duiker, as you say, I've spotted it, it moves away. But we might get a view of that Steenbok when we get a bit closer. So we've checked this whole area extensively around there. There are no tracks coming out. It is possible we missed tracks, but I think with this, how fresh those tracks were, and with the rain last night, it's unlikely. So I'm hoping what she might have done is waited for those elephants to move off and then move towards Buffelshoek Dam. So we're going to move straight back into that area now. We might bump into those elephants on this road. They were heading in this direction, which could also be nice, but we are still on the trail of that female leopard. So let's go see if we get lucky. Well done, Maddie, Elaine, Blair, on the name of Shadow's Cub, which means survivor. And here we have a little pair of Steenbok. So it's unusual that you actually see a pair together. The male is just off, that's the little female there. There we go, the male is going to walk into shot. Jeez. On cue, well done, listening to our directors. So they're one of the few antelope species that is monogamous when they are a pair. They also live in very, very small territories. So not bigger than a hectare or two, which is, or 1 hectare is about 2 point something acres. And so they will live in this very, very small area. And you'll see if you look carefully on their faces, underneath their eye, there's a gland called the pre-orbital gland, and they use that to scent mark the area. Quite an interesting thing about them is that they actually bury their feces to hide their presence in an area, because they live in such a small area that it would be quite easy for a predator to work out where they are. So there we go, you can actually see the pre-orbital gland very, very nicely at the moment. You can see that dark patch running from the eye. And that is what they'll use to scent mark to keep other Steenboks out of their territory. So quite, as I said, so they live in a very, very small territory. They'll defend it vigorously against other Steenbok. And sorry guys, apparently Scotty's got something really interesting, so we're going to cross really quickly over to him, and we'll be back with hopefully not just the Steenbok shortly.
Welcome back, folks. We got lucky. The herd of elephant that we're looking at now, we can thank VM for, because he spotted them in quite thick bush. And there's one more coming across through this little clearing now. We've got a little window of opportunity as they cross this road. Oh. And these youngsters, especially the young bulls, which this one is, can often be quite humorous and entertaining. Let's see if he gives us some attitude as he walks past. No, not too much. And it seems like it's the day of the steenbok, because we saw some earlier. Now Brent got what I hear is an incredibly great view of them for you, so happy about that. And always great to swap from small animals to large ones and vice versa. And this is a large herd of elephant. There's more and more that just keeps streaming out of the vegetation. Initially I thought it was just a small herd, but there are quite a few of them. Beautiful. They're all so relaxed, and again, the vegetarians out here are all going to be very happy today, because that rain last night is going to make a big difference to their cuisine over the next couple of weeks, and they can look forward to a little surge in growth. And also some fresh water. Elephants are very fussy when it comes to drinking, and will try as much as possible to drink the freshest, cleanest water available. And the water holes, as you can imagine, are beginning to get a little bit rancid. But now they will be refreshed with some fresh water. Well, we're going to try and get a few more angles on these elephants, and in the meantime, while we try and reposition, we're going to cut back to Brent, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, guys. We've left those steenbok. They moved off a little bit. Just to finish off on the steenbok quickly, what I was saying is that they live in that very small area, and their name is a derivative from an Afrikaans word, which is a baksteen, which means a brick. So their main defense mechanism is to sort of sit very still. And I've actually seen wild dogs running through an area, literally smell an area less than 30 centimeters from that steenbok, and it didn't move, and it survived that way. So that's where they get their name from, as still as a brick. But we are on our way down towards Buffelshoek Dam, and hopefully that female leopard was just waiting for the elephants to move out of the area before she came down to the dam for a drink. It's always good to stop and listen, and even better to stop and listen when you have nice pretty things to look at next to us. A female in Nyala. Which reminds me, guys, I know I've been gone for a while, so, and you know I like to ask you as many questions as you ask me. So I'm gonna rehash a question that we've done before, specifically because we're looking at a Nyala, which is one of the spiral horned antelopes. And I'm going to ask you, who can remember how many spiral-horned antelope occur in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve? We'll keep it easy, just Sabi Sands. We're not going to go to Africa just yet. Maybe save that for the afternoon. But how many spiral-horned antelope occur in the Sabi Sands, or can possibly occur in the Sabi Sands? You can send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. It looks like there's a male. He's coming through the thicket now. Let's see if we should move, or maybe we should just wait for him to move into shot. This is going to be quite interesting, because we've seen the female there. She's very, very pretty, that lovely orange color. And the male, is he eating? He's eating. Maybe we need to roll forward a few meters. And the male is this dark chocolate brown, very, very different looking. So when, Brian, I think that's not the best view of him, but he is there. There he is. And you see there's that dark chocolate brown. He's got that very distinct white crest. And there's quite an important reason that the male looks so different from the female, and which is very different from sort of impala or kudu, who's quite closely related to Inyala. They're part of the same family. Now, Inyala have that very interesting sort of way of avoiding a physical fight, and that's to that sort of who's the prettiest, a Zoolander walk-off. And we can't really see him now. Yeah. We're going to keep moving, and I'll go towards where we had those last leopard tracks, but I'll keep talking about Inyala. So the reason that there's such huge sexual dimorphism, and when I say sexual dimorphism, I mean the male and the female look so incredibly different, is because of that very unique sort of fighting strategy. They will actually physically fight, but if they can, they'll have that sort of model showdown, who's the prettiest. And they'll stand opposite each other, erect their legs, erect their mane, and that thought it was an alarm call, false alarm. Alarm, false alarm. Bad joke in the morning. But so they'll erect their mane, and that is a development to avoid physical fights. And that is why, unlike an impala, even though the male has horns, the male and female look very, very similar. But in Inyala, male and female look incredibly different. And that is due to that's very, very unique development of the sort of model off, the show off, who's the prettiest wins. So quite interesting how animals have evolved differently over the years. Let's have a look. Hopefully he sits. Don't move. Just heard him calling as I drove through there, and he's sitting nice and out in the open.
Direct me?
To the left. Oh, he's gone. Sorry. He just flew off. There was a brown-hooded kingfisher. Oh no, he's moved to the other side of the tree. Okay, far right of the tree, bro. I don't know if you can see him from where you are. Okay, you're in the general zone, but I need to go forward for you. Get him there. There we go. I can hear another one calling now. Don't fly, don't fly. There we go. The brown-hooded kingfisher. So quite closely related to the woodland kingfisher that we saw a lot during summer, except he's a resident. Off he ducks. Another insectivore. So a kingfisher that doesn't eat fish, and he belongs to the same family of kingfishers as the woodlands kingfisher, and they're called Halison kingfishers. That's the first part of their Latin name. Quite interesting that there are a few of those kingfisher species in Europe, and that's where their Latin name comes from. The Halison day, when you go to the beach and there's this beautiful, the ocean looks like a lake, it's still. And apparently the kingfishers in Europe, especially I suppose in the Mediterranean, used to get confused when you had these halcyon days of this perfect flat ocean. So they would take off and they would fly out over the ocean thinking it was a lake or a bay that they could cross, and they would actually die from exhaustion and fall into the ocean from being confused by that flat sea. So that's where the beginning part of that brown-hood kingfisher's Latin name comes from. It's a halcyon. So from the halcyon days. And apparently, if I remember correctly, that was named in ancient Greek times by one of the philosophers. I can't remember which philosopher, but he was the one who gave those kingfishers the first part of their Latin name. So guys, what we're going to do is we're going to get to Buffalo's Hook Dam first, because I hear that we've got some answers regarding how many spiral-horned antelope occur or can occur in the Sabi Sands. So we're quite close to the dam. I just want to go there, and we're going to switch off there for a second and listen, or hopefully we even find something there. Oh, here's the elephant dung from those ellies we saw earlier. They've moved off into this block. But we'll get to the dam, and then we will go through the answers for the spiral-horned antelope question. And guys, we really, really do appreciate all your questions. They make the drives fun for us as well as for you, and it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to experience. Sorry. Thought I saw a truck. It's a hyena. It's amazing for us to be able to share our knowledge and our passion with something we truly, truly love with all of you all over the world. So thanks again for all the questions, and we're going to be answering that spiral-horned antelope question shortly. I'll give you a clue. Let me think now carefully, hard to not make it too easy. So there are 4 possible spiral-horned antelope. One of them you don't see in the Sabi Sands very often. I've heard of about 3 or 4 reports of them in the Sabi Sands, and to the south and to the east of us on the border of Kruger, but very rare. But we're going to go ahead and get some answers from people now. And while that, we're going to listen, see if there's any alarm calls in the meantime. So, oh, good morning, Adam from Massachusetts. Welcome on Sunrise Safari with us this morning. Adam said, got the number right, which is 4, but not quite all the species. He got three right. So Inyala, Kudu, and Bushbuck are 3 traphelageds or spiral-horned antelope. And he also said Impala. Unfortunately, Adam, Impala is not a spiral-horned antelope. If we have a look, I will try to find another spiral-horned antelope. You look, their horns sort of twist. And that's the sort of most important thing. Whereas Impala has ridges on its horns, and they go out and wide. But Impala is not the 4th member of the traphelageds that can possibly occur in the Sabi Sands. That 4th member we are missing isn't the most common. I only know of it being seen to the south and east of us, and actually to the north of us as well. Tarzan is, thank you very much for your answer. Tarzan is correct. He's got that 4th member. It's eland. Eland is the 4th spiral-horned antelope that can possibly occur in the Sabi Sands. Eland, quite interestingly, in this part of the world, they prefer the Mopani Veld, which there is Mopani Veld a little bit to the north of us. Brian spotted a kingfisher hunting. Oh, there we go. Did he catch one?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a big fish as well. Oh, and he dropped it. It was too big for him. Jeez, nice camera work, Brian. That was awesome. Oh, it's up for the next one now. Maybe a little bit smaller this time. Not a pelican after all. But thank you. Well done, Tarzan, on getting that. So, oh, now he's going to take a break. He must be quite upset with himself. I think we keep on him for a second because he's going to go. I think he's definitely going to try again. Show you, is an insectivore. It does eat frogs and other things as well, but mostly insects. And now we have a pied kingfisher, which is very much a pescivore. So almost solely sole diet of fish. For those of you who don't know. And we're talking about the brown-hooded kingfisher, who's an insectivore. It does eat frogs and other things as well, but mostly insects. And now we have a pied kingfisher, which is very much a pescivore. So almost solely sole diet of fish. And, oh, there's another one. Oh, there we go, the hover. So they are completely 100% reliant on water sources, rivers and lakes and dams. And now Brian's showing off at how good he is on camera. There's not many people who can keep up with a kingfisher like that. He got you there at the end.
Andrew comes yours. All right.
So we can, if we have a look around the dam, you'll notice that the amount of elephant dung is increasing almost on a daily, and these pathways through to the dam are getting more and more worn. And that's as the rest of the bush and the other small water holes that are sort of perennial, that are filled up by the rains, start drying up. The elephants are going to congregate on these permanent water holes. And I was looking at some old photos of Juma, and chatting to Pete Pretorius last night, and he was telling me that this dam in particular holds water when everything else dries up, and that area that we're looking at now towards the dam wall is a bit deeper. So he says he doesn't know about it ever drying up, but that area always holds water, and he said we're going to have such a great time in the dry months at this dam with ellies, with buffalo, and obviously with all the other animals that come in around the dam to drink. So I'm very excited. I think this is definitely going to be one of my hotspots over the dry season. I caught a tiny fish. Just going to go eat it now. So everyone's complimenting your camera work there, Mr. Brian.
Thank you.
So, I think I swallowed it already. It was a tiny, tiny little sliver of a fish, a lot smaller than the one tried last time, which dropped because it was a bit too big. So, if you look at that bank that kingfish is sitting on, I can't really see. Now, that is a sort of an ideal nesting bank for a pied kingfisher. So they would excavate a burrow on a clay bank like that, and particularly sort of a couple of centimeters below the sort of lip, the top. And there's a couple of reasons for this. It's a very effective way for kingfishers to protect their eggs and nests from other. I'm trying to see. I think if you go a bit to the right, you see there almost just to the right of frame now. There's a dark spot. I think if we go forward, that might actually even be a burrow. So because they live around the water, there's a lot of things that, especially like monitor lizards, that will raid those nests. And by putting it on a vertical clay bank like that, it's very difficult for a monitor or a snake or other predators to get to that nest. are doing very well. Full Pride were together when they were seen yesterday, and they were fat cats. So I think they killed a kudu, if I remember correctly, about 2 days ago. So they are hunting again, so they are starting to move again. But they are happy fat cats, but unfortunately quite far to the north of our boundary. But fingers crossed, if they're hungry and they're moving, there's a possibility they might come visit us again. We haven't seen them for a while, and I always love seeing lions. I actually feel like I'm missing lions in my life at the moment. It's been so long since I've seen a lion, but hopefully they'll be back very soon. And then just another update while we have of all the other animal ongoings, or specifically the lions. I know you guys had the Tsalala Breakaway Pride with Pete last night, and so there were only 9 of them from what I heard, so there's 4 somewhere else, and I'm not sure whether it was the 9 sub-adults and the 4 adults were missing. So you guys, if you could let me know whether it was the 4 adults that were missing from the sub-adults, or it was 4 sub-adults missing from the rest of the pride. And you can do that by sending your answers to questions at wildearth.tv, or you can just use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Quite often when I get to a hill, I'll switch off the vehicle and I'll let it freewheel down the hill, and that's just to help with my hearing. There's so many little different signs that the bush gives you in terms of how to find animals. So with alarm calls from birds, from squirrels, from antelope. So it's always it's a very good practice when you do get the opportunity to freewheel and cut out the engine noise. Gives you that little tiny extra bit of chance of finding something. Where's my cargo button? Oh, there it is. So we're gonna go into an area that Scott, Steph, and myself over the last week named the Black Hole. It is an area where we found tracks of a leopard and lion, actually, many times, but did not ever actually find the animal. So we'll see. Maybe the Black Hole is going to be a bright, burning ray of sunshine this morning. So we're going down a hill. At the bottom of the hill, for a couple of seconds, we might have a little bit of signal breakup, but we'll be out of it and through it as quick as we can. Such a beautiful morning this morning. Lots of elephants being up and down and across. Definitely in the last couple of days there's been a large influx of ellies. To Scotty, see what he's up to, and we'll see you a bit later. Have fun with Scott.
Welcome back, and it sounds like you've been having a very entertaining time at Buffelshoek Dam with Brent, and I really am jealous. I can't wait to see the footage of the kingfisher catching what I hear was a really big fish and then dropping it. it's always wonderful to see any of the predators hunting, be it a leopard or a kingfisher. Veerman and myself have not been having the luckiest of mornings, but what I can assure you is that we're still having such a good time. We really enjoy working with one another, and I really enjoy doing this as a job. So after a few weeks of a slightly different role for Wild Earth, it's good to be back in the saddle, and really looking forward to the coming weeks on safari with all of you. Well, the good prospects are for this afternoon is that there have been several different sets of leopard tracks found on our property. We haven't managed to find the animals, but we've got a good idea of where they are and where they're moving and which directions they've been heading in. And it's about keeping close tabs on that information that gets laid down on the roads and the various pathways that the animals use that help us to find them. So I'm confident that even though we haven't found any of the big cats this morning, we could potentially find some this afternoon. Not that it's only about them, but we do enjoy the predator sightings, or I certainly do. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with the various predators. The role that I've been involved with in the last few weeks has been the tracking team with Stefan and Brent. So we've been finding a fair amount of predators, but then handing over the sightings to you with the other presenters. So actually I haven't spent much time with the cats in the last few weeks, so looking forward to that. Now, we are currently driving down the main access road that takes you to Vuyatela Camp and Gallagher Camp, which are the two lodges on Djuma. And I am now turning onto a road that's going to take us around the periphery of the camp. And it's an area that leopard do like to hang out, as well as other animals, and it will feed us out to Vuyatela Dam. And we've got 20 more minutes to hunt down whatever we can for you. Numerous here at Djuma. There's not enough open plains and short grassy clearings, which is the habitat they prefer. And this is a mother with two piglets that she would have given birth to around November last year. And they will be making their way towards a small open clearing that we're about to get to. And I've actually seen this same little family of warthog in that area just a few days ago. So they do like to pick specific areas where they do hang out, which does make finding them a little bit easier for us, even though they're not numerous. They do like to hang out in the few clearings that we do have out here. You'll notice how the one that's closest to us is feeding on its elbows, essentially. And that just makes life easier for them, gets their mouth closer to the ground.
Maybe north of that camera. I had another start right in the corner of my Malaysia through the park yesterday. So I'm not sure which direction they went from there. Okay. En hoe sam plek voor het jaki
Well, they're so relaxed with us that I think we're going to hang around and enjoy the sightseeing. They don't often let you get so close to them. But for some reason, they are very tolerant of us this morning, which is great. Now, this is a great angle. You'll be able to notice the female, the biggest one. There's actually two sets of tusks, one growing out of the upper jaw and one growing out of the lower jaw. And even though the ones from the top jaw are big and appear quite mean, it's the tusks that are growing out of that bottom jaw that occlude and sharpen against those upper tusks every time she closes her mouth, that are razor sharp, and those are the ones that will cause damage. And warthog are known to defend their youngsters. If a leopard, for example, was to catch one of those piglets, this mother would charge in and try and chase the leopard off. And sometimes leopard come off second best when hunting warthog because of these sharp tusks. Okay, well, we will now continue following the warthogs down the road, and we should be arriving at this short open clearing where I saw them a couple of days ago, and in not too long, when I did see them a few days ago, there was a huge boar with them. But they've decided to veer off. So we'll leave them now as they disappear into this thicker vegetation. Yeah, it's in for hyena to take on, but I wonder what it is that they can smell. You can see them sniffing and smelling and looking in our direction very intently. And this is great because we can use their knowledge and their senses to help find something interesting. Now, the wind is blowing from us towards them, and what I know is that bushbuck that died of old age that we found yesterday morning on our tracking team is very close by. Now, I'm not sure whether other hyena would have found it last night. I'm guessing that they would have, and that there's nothing left of it. But maybe not. Maybe these hyena are about to stumble upon the remains of a bushbuck that died of old age. We were led to that by Bataloo eagles, which feed on carrion. So, the hyenas are popping out into view now and just disappeared behind a small bush. And interesting to see them active now. They don't look full-bellied, so they obviously had an unsuccessful night out hunting and scavenging. And possibly from far away they've smelled something. Well, there's just a few minutes left and they've headed off into a thick block, so we'll leave them to it. And like I say, good prospects for this afternoon. There's been a lot of action of leopard moving around the property. We just haven't been able to find them. And I certainly enjoyed being out again with all of you this morning. I hope you enjoyed it too. Thanks, VM, for your camera work, and thanks to Alex and Nikki in the final control room. We're going to cut over to Brent so he can say goodbye, and we'll see you all this afternoon for the next adventure.
Welcome back, everyone. We went through that area we've been calling the black hole. It is still a black hole. And we're now sitting with one of my favorite little animals, with a nice family of dwarf mongoose. You can see there. Very interesting behavior going on at the moment. A little aloe grooming. There's some youngsters there. So there are some youngsters there, and what they're doing is they're coming out of their burrows, and they're sunbathing, warming up, and you can see how active and alert they are. They're always constantly checking for predators. There you can see it, the second group behind. You can see the slightly smaller ones. Those are the youngsters. There we go. There's one climbing up on top of the mound now. And there's another one coming out. So, like most social predators, all this grooming is very important to keep the ties between the business correct. And they've helped me find leopards before. They've helped me find lion. But sometimes it's nice to just have a look at them just for them. Also, probably one of my favorite photography subjects. They're just so busy and interesting. So guys, it's been fantastic being back out here. I've had a fantastic morning. Unfortunately, we're not so big on the big cats, but hopefully we can rectify it this afternoon. And a wonderful elephant sighting, and I always love dwarf mongoose. So from us here at Safari Live, thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully see you in the afternoon. Goodbye.